You've tuned in to chipsgrooveradio with Mike and Jesse.
Wife and son decided to take kind of an impromptu trip up to Vermont for the weekend, so I'm just home with my daughter and the dogs, kind of chilling, finishing up my work week. Meeting up one of my buddies to play a game of Song and Ice and Fire tomorrow night, and then I'm supposed to go up to another one of my friend's house to help her remove an electrical box from her ceiling that probably got installed with the house. So it's like the box is riveted to a metal bracket that is nailed to the side of two studs, and it looks like it's going to be fun. So I'm pretty sure I'm just going to end up going up there and literally cutting it with a set of big pliers or hitting it with a hammer until it breaks, because there's no way I'm getting to it otherwise.
Nice.
Yeah, should be fun.
Not dealing with actual electricity though.
No, it's been disabled already.
That's good. Yeah, that's one thing I refuse to do in my own home. I don't mess with electricity. I don't.
Yeah.
I feel like even though I'm a safe person and I take precautions, it would turn into an episode of Home Improvement.
Yeah, that's the last thing I need to do is turn off one of my breakers and then be working on replacing like a box in the ceiling, and then one of my kids getting annoyed because their outlet won't work in the room, and then just going to, turn the breaker back on. I can't lock and tag it out at home the way that I used to be able to at work in the Lens Lab. So,
right.
Yeah.
Not quite the same.
I don't think that my home work environment is OSHA approved. Is the word I was
probably not.
No, probably not.
So you're going to be playing, is that a board game or tabletop game?
Yeah, tabletop minis game. The Game of Thrones war game. The Song of Ice and Fire.
I've gotten a load of tabletop information the last week. I went to Gen Con.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. Indianapolis. It was pretty fun. We only went for a day, but a lot of stuff in my head in that one day. But yeah, it was a good time. I enjoyed it. My wife was there, and we met with Josh of the Nasty Gram podcast.
Yeah, I was going to say, I had a couple of friends that went
for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good time.
I read that Gen Con this year had broken all of its previous attendance records. It was like 71,000 people.
80. The one I heard was like 84. Wow. And I don't know. I didn't check officially, but that was what someone locally told us. That's a lot of people. I went to Gen Con 24 years ago, and it was in Milwaukee, I think, or Madison. So it was a much different experience. I mean, it was still similar, but definitely not 70 or 80,000 people.
Yeah, I had it on my list to go this year, but there were just too many other events that were in too close proximity. It's funny because like the one year, I've been saying I was going to go for years and years. And, 1 year, me and my friend Adam and another one of my friends, Jake, we were all set up. We had our tickets. We had our housing figured out. We were like good to go. And that happened to be 2020. So very shortly before, the con, the whole world shut down. So we didn't go. And I haven't quite blocked out time to try again. But we'll get there when we get there. Maybe next year.
Yeah, this was kind of last minute for us. And it was kind of bumped. It was nudged over the edge by my co-host Andrew of the This Is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast show. So we finally met in person. That was cool. He's a great dude. And we had a great weekend together.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was nice. And I actually caught a glimpse of the Slay the Spire board game.
How about that?
I was like, it was on display. I didn't see any gameplay or anything, but I saw it advertised and I saw the box.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's actually very sold out online. You can't even get it. Like they sold through their first release in July. Really? So they're doing a restock maybe in like, I don't know, September, October, November, something like that.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, it's obviously got its following.
Yeah.
Before that, I just wanted to take a couple minutes, and the reviews for Borderlands they are coming in.
They sure are,
Jesse. And wow, I did not I mean, within reason, I did not expect it to be this awful. I guess you could call me, I think Andrew would call me look on the bright side kind of guy for certain IPs. X-Files being one. I'm a very forgiving person when it comes to storylines, plot points. You know, sometimes it's just okay for Michael. So when Borderlands was announced, I was, I was reasonably excited for it. And then they announced the cast, and I was a little confused, but I'm still willing to give it a go. And you and I had discussed this just a little bit earlier today. Yeah. It's an Eli Roth film, and he's a very capable director. I'm not saying he's above mistakes or above garbage movies. At times, everyone has a clunker here and there, but I just don't believe the reviews are as bad as they are. It feels almost personal, and I don't know. Hopefully that's not the case, and I don't know, but I don't know. I need to see it for myself because it cannot possibly be this bad. That's just my general gut feeling.
Yeah, I was looking at some articles after we were talking earlier today, and evidently it has a quote perfect 0% score aggregate on Rotten Tomatoes.
Saw that.
Which is
yep.
That's something. You know, it's funny. We were talking about the Borderlands movie and like movie adaptations and stuff, like you said in one of the previous episodes. And, you know, at that time there was already some reviews out, and, you know, I kind of, you know, I had my concerns, but I think that trying to go into it with an open mind is pretty important. You know, am I looking for a perfect film version of Borderlands? No, I don't think that's reasonable. And I think that, like, you kind of need to be open to some artistic license. I will say that I agree that the casting for a couple of the roles is a little wonky, but, you know, that's just coming from me, somebody who, like, you know, Borderlands 2 in particular holds like a really special place in my heart.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic game. Like, I mean, I went to the Rhode Island Anime Con with my daughter and her friends. You know, I took her there for her birthday when it was in town. I don't know, like last month or something like that, month and a half ago.
Nice.
And, you know, I've watched anime my whole life, but, you know, I wasn't really like, most of the stuff that was there was like newer, you know, not really the stuff that I grew up with. So I wasn't that excited about it. But then I looked at the guest list, and the guy that voices Handsome Jack was there. And I'm like, oh, I think I need to go get in line and talk to him, because that might be
awesome.
One of the most memorable voice acting performances for a villain, like in video game history for me. I mean, Handsome Jack is, wow, pretty incredible.
He did a great job at being just an asshole.
Oh my God.
He's got such character in his voice. He did a fantastic job. Yeah. So I agree with that.
Yeah. So at any rate, all that comes to say that Borderlands, you know, I'm maybe a little more prone to be super critical than somebody who's just going for kind of their average movie going experience. And I think that that's really,
right.
I think that that's really probably part of the issue. If the movie really is that bad, I think it's probably because the people that saw it first are the people that have played the video game series, and they're going into it with certain expectations. But it seems like from watching the trailers that it's really meant to be a more sort of like accessible movie. Like, you don't really need to have that baseline understanding of the video games. So it's a video game movie that's made for more of like your everyman, so to speak.
Yeah.
Who knows if that's actually the case, but you know, we'll see.
I do plan on seeing it. I do plan on seeing it in the theater, because I think that type of movie is very action packed. I would imagine would probably be best viewed on the big screen. Yeah. Nice sound. So I am going to go. Me and my buddy Joe are most likely going to go, because we played Borderlands. That's kind of the inception of our friendship started there with Borderlands 1. So I just have baseline expectations. It just looks fun, and that's really all I'm getting out of it. I don't know. And let's be fair to people who think Borderlands has some deep story. You might want to check that. It's not really that hard to get right, in my opinion. I don't think that much diversion in story is really going to hurt it.
No.
The only thing that, Borderlands was incredibly fun. Most importantly, the gameplay. Obviously, people come back to it. The characters are absolutely important and their personalities, but the story, at least in terms of Borderlands 1, I barely remember.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way. So there's a lot of room in my head to see where the movie goes, and I'm a little bit more forgiving. I hope it's just fun. I have almost zero expectations. I told you earlier, I think the weirdest thing for me was Kevin Hart as Roland. Yeah. When I heard that, I like Kevin Hart. He's a funny guy, but as Roland, it struck me as odd from the moment they announced it.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so I'll give him a chance. I'm not saying he's going to do a bad job. I have no idea. He might do it great.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how he plays it because, I mean, like most of Kevin Hart's roles that he's played in film are comedic. I mean, the guy's a stand-up comic. He's got great comic timing. He's got a very distinctive style, and it really works for a lot of characters. But it's funny because, of all of the characters in all of moviedom to cast Kevin Hart as, like, Roland's kind of the straight man. That's his personality.
I never would have put that. And that's the thing.
It's like, he is the straight man in the story. Like, you have these goofy characters like Salvador, the Gunzerker, and, every single other character in the game has a big, hefty dose of comedy, and Roland doesn't. And that's kind of, I think, what makes him so endearing, Yeah.
Yeah. And it looks like in the film, they surrounded him with the craziest people. So there is a chance that he is going to be somewhat of a straight man, because you've got Krieg, you've got Tiny Tina, you've got Tannis, for fuck's sake. She's nuts. And the only one closest in terms of personality to Roland would be, of course, Cate Blanchett's character.
Lilith,
So, Lilith, so I'm excited to see it. We will see how it shakes out. Everyone who has reviewed it this shittily so far, I put you on notice. I don't fully agree with you yet. I will see. We'll find out in about a week. But on to the episode. Jesse, you chose a wonderful little game that I have not yet played, but you have spoken highly about, and I have downloaded. So because of that. So please enlighten us on Slay the Spire.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I was listening to the Clash at Demon Head episode that just got posted. I mean, we're recording, the Demon Head episode posted, like 2 or 3 days ago. And while we were recording that, it was like just after I had kind of started getting into Slay the Spire. I just kind of picked it up, just for the heck of it. I saw it was on sale on the PlayStation Store, and I had heard good things. It was cheap. I'm like, what the hell? Why not? I need something quick to play. And it's a roguelike, so you can kind of pop in and out. That's sort of how they work. And basically, between the time that we recorded Clash at Demon Head and I was just sort of casually playing Slay the Spire to now, I have fallen fully head over heels with this game. And in that episode, I was like, yeah, it's a cool game. I don't think we could really cover it on the show because there's only like 3 songs and they just kind of play on repeat the whole time. I am sorry to the composer, Clark Abood, and I am sorry to every other Slay the Spire fan out there. I was completely wrong. There are many songs,
how dare you,
and they are not repetitive at all. They each have their own stylistic choices, and we're going to get into it in a couple of minutes. But yeah, really, really, really loving this game. And for anybody who's not familiar with it, it is the first and I believe only game by Megacrit Studios. It actually got produced by Humble Bundle, which is pretty cool. I didn't know that they produced games. Evidently they do.
Probably their first attempt.
And
honestly, I don't know.
It's a really cool game. I think somebody went into my brain and tried to figure out what the most addictive game they could possibly make for somebody like me would be, and then they came out of it with Slay the Spire because it's a roguelike. and it's a collectible card game, essentially. The whole premise of the game is that you're playing the equivalent of a tabletop CCG like Magic the Gathering or Netrunner or one of the other gazillions of card games that I've played in my life, and you're basically drafting a deck as you go through the Spire, and you pick up items and you pick up cards and you figure out how to work them together as combos, and somebody figured out how to hook me real hard.
So is it you go through the game each time and every time it's different? Is it a very okay?
Yep, it's a basic,
the cards you find on the way
are all random, right?
Random, perfect.
Yeah, it's the same basic kind of framework. Like you're working through 3 different acts. There's a boss at the end of each act. It's procedurally generated on like there's almost like a decision tree of floors that you can go through as you ascend the Spire. And there's some where there's monsters, and there's some where there's some like a random encounter with like a merchant or maybe another monster. There's elites, stronger monsters that have better rewards. Merchants where you can buy stuff, and you basically have to look at all of these different decision trees leading up to the end of the act where the boss is, and try and figure out what the best route for you to get there is going to be. And then you always start with the same deck of cards depending on the character that you select, and then the rewards are random, so you can't just say I'm going to build this type of deck this run, because you don't know if you're going to get the right cards or relics or items or potions to make that kind of deck work. So every run is a little bit unique. And now not only am I playing it, but my son plays it kind of a lot. And my wife watched me playing it for probably about a week after I picked it up, just hanging out at night while she was reading or doing whatever else. And then she liked it so much that she started playing. And then she started to get jealous when I was on the TV playing, and she found that she could buy it on the Switch. So she did that. And now we have 2 copies. So that she can play on the Switch and I can play on the TV at the same time.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's taken over the whole
must
family.
be doing
My
something. My
daughter has avoided the bug somehow. I'm not sure how, but yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I was listening to the soundtrack, and I think, there's a lot of power behind this. I was surprised to kind of put the 2 things together. A game that's basically a card game, and the depth of the music I was listening to. I'm like, Clark Abood really took time to make this seem a lot more epic on screen than perhaps what you're seeing. I know there are animations and characters on screen, but it is a card game. So it at times it's like, oh, this is pretty grand for what you're seeing on screen. So I think he did spend a lot of time taking great care in what you were hearing. And I actually, I got a lot of pangs of Heroes of Might and Magic soundtracks when I was listening to this. There's a lot of synthesizer instrumentation that reminded me of mid-90s, late 90s strategy games, RPG games. And I actually really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and I mean, the visuals are really cool. They're very stylized. And, to your point, like the animations are pretty minimal. I mean, a lot of the times, if an enemy is attacking you, it might, like a la, Final Fantasy 1, like slightly shift forward on the screen and then back. And the screen might flash and there's like an attack effect on you. But that's kind of the extent of it. Like different abilities will, of course, have different animations, but you're not actually watching the characters like jump all over the screen and swing swords at each other and stuff like that. It plays very much like kind of a mashup between a classic, 90s console RPG and a card game. But they managed to get, I think, just the right balance between the music track and the sound effects so that it doesn't feel too overwhelming. And they did a good job, or Clark did a good job. Clark, I'm talking about him like I know him. Clark Abood did a great job.
Good old Clark.
Good old Clark. Of really kind of working ebb and flow into the soundtrack. And I think we're going to see that when we listen to a few of them.
Now, I did look him up before I took notes, and I went to his website, clarkabood.com, and I just wanted to take a quote directly from the website. He has a love for a range of genres, his love for a range of genres finds its way into all of Clark's music. whether blending ominous orchestral colors with unique synths, lo-fi synths and beats in kind words, or retro console synths and ambience to Videoverse. Those are 2 games of his.
Mm-hmm.
Clark has created music and sounds for promotional and advertising projects covering a wide array of properties, including Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, SpongeBob, and others. And he's also contributed underscore for programs on Vice, NBC, MTV, Discovery, Animal Planet, Bravo. This guy's done quite a bit of shit. So if you want someone to score your game, someone who knows how to capture the setting, I think this is your guy.
Yeah.
He's done quite a bit of stuff. So it sounds like, the TV work, he's getting a lot of different shows that they need mood set, distinct mood set for each different show. So I think he's got a lot of talent, a lot of versatility. And I think, yeah, it definitely shows here.
Yeah. And if you end up playing the game and getting as hooked on the soundtrack as I did, if you can find it on eBay or whatever, there is a beautiful vinyl.
Yeah.
Oh boy, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, I was gonna save that for the end, but man, we're here now. No, I was a little disappointed. I couldn't find it on vinyl. It is sold out just about everywhere. It was on, I believe, the Materia Store and Black Screen Records, sold out everywhere. But you can buy it on Apple Music, Spotify. They have it for streaming. And I'm sure down the road there will be a repress of the vinyl, because a lot of popular video game scores get that. So keep your fingers crossed, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, like one of the kind of cool things about him is I didn't really realize that he had quite as expansive collection of soundtracks that he's contributed to. And I started looking through the ones that are on his website, and there were a few of them that I liked the soundtrack so much that I went and tried to find the games on Steam to see if they were if they were ones that I'd be interested in picking up. And there are a few. Yeah.
I almost bought a couple just on principle. There was, I think, Kind Words was on vinyl still, and I almost picked it up, but I'm like, I'll wait until I hear it. But I'm just surprised at his versatility. I think the fact that he's done so much TV work, and he's only got a few, I want to say, under the radar games, but obviously Slay the Spire is not under the radar. Yeah. I would say that is the breakout hit of his career so far. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see where he goes. To that end, we should talk about some music here. Since this is your soundtrack, why don't you pick the first song?
Yeah, I mean, when I started looking at the soundtrack and trying to figure out what some of my picks would be, it's not like it's a tremendously long soundtrack. I mean, there's like 20 songs or so. But I think one of the cool things about it is that most of them are pretty decent track lengths. It's not like some video game soundtracks where you've got like 30-second long tracks and there's like, 200 of them. Looking at you, Breath of the Wild. We talked about that.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's the first thing that popped into my head.
Yeah, exactly.
The longest track list you'll ever see.
Yeah. I think that narrowing it down to a few, there are definitely some standouts. And the first one that I'd want to call out is Exordium, which is
excellent.
That's choice. Actually the background music to the first act. So it's what you hear for the vast majority of the first third of the game.
Okay. Now, is this a decision-making song, or is it like you're playing through and it's just one track for it?
Yeah, so for the most part, when you're playing through like an act, you're going to listen to this particular song, like the Exordium song, while you're looking at your different routes that you can take up the Spire. It's also going to play when you're making different, types of decisions, choosing which cards you're going to draft, which relics you're going to pick, that kind of thing. There is battle music. There's special music for fighting elites, and then different music for each one of the act bosses. when you're ascending the Spire and doing regular encounters and regular random events, this is the song that you're listening to for the vast majority
of it. Okay.
Yeah.
It does with those cellos, you get a lot of that decision making. It's very undertoned. I like the movement of it. It's not a particularly fast song at all. It's just kind of steady, and it's got this almost war room aspect to it that I like.
Yeah, it makes you kind of feel like, you're strategizing away through an encounter, which is, really what you're doing for most of the game, if I'm being perfectly frank. But I think that one of the comments that you just made on like the tempo and the pacing of the song is really important, not only to this song, but to the whole soundtrack. There are battle themes, there are boss musics, there are other tracks for different parts of the game, but I think that Clark Abboud does a really good job of maintaining the same sort of tempo as you're going through the game. There's not big jarring differences between one track and the next. It's not like, you're getting like a Dancing Mad style, Kefka-esque boss music, and then going back down to something like this for the following act. Like there's a really nice flow to the whole soundtrack, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, it doesn't get too complex, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean it, above all, this is a card game, so you can't, you could, but you can't really take it to the Dancing Mad level. You could, it's just a little strange. But there is a through line with this album that's refreshing in the sense where it's like you feel like you know where it's going. It's just entertaining enough to keep you engaged. And that's a big thing with me is there were several of these tracks that we're going to talk about today that the engagement in it in my ears is very fun, very exciting to listen to. And I think one of the tracks that stood out to me itself was Slay the Spire.
Yeah.
Anyone who knows me, anyone who's listened to this show knows I'm a big fan of title tracks because of what they can bring to the table and what some do versus what some don't. For instance, this song, upon starting the album, there's a real feeling of dark adventure, and this song kind of lays that groundwork. It's not a particularly hopeful feel to this song. There's mystery, there's intrigue. What I like about it as a theme song, aptly named Slay the Spire, it sets that stage for the game itself. I get an almost, like I said before, Heroes of Might and Magic feel from this as the song plays on. It switches to an inquisitive midsection that really slowly evolves into a more beautiful melody with violins and vocalizations to keep that mystery alive. It's just a wonderful piece that I think manages to capture the changing moods of the game in small sections. That the darkness of the game is ever present in this song, but with that midsection, there is some light shining through. And I think it's indicative of your adventure through the game, or what will be your adventure. And I think it's just a lovely title track. Yeah. And I'm always on board for those.
It kind of makes me think of like walking into like a brightly lit but still kind of spooky forest, like walking into a forest from like a Lord of the Rings style setting. Like it has that sort of grand nature. It has that mystery to it, but to your point, it's not too hopeful. Like there's a darkness there. There's something that just makes you feel a little bit uneasy. And it's kind of funny because I was trying to think about why that is, because that's legitimately the feeling that I get with a lot of the tracks on here. And when I listen to them and listen to them again, I think that it's actually that there's kind of a theme with this whole album, and this song kind of personifies that. There's not a lot of percussion. There really isn't. There's a lot of strings. There's a lot of woodwind. There's a little bit of brass in a couple of them, but the percussion isn't there.
A little bit of choir.
A little bit of, yeah. And I think that really changes the feel of the whole album. And I don't really feel like I miss it because I've listened to the soundtrack, I don't know, probably 6 times in the last couple of days, just, in the background while I'm working. And it wasn't until today that I noticed that there's really not that much. And I didn't miss it, which is weird. But
it is weird because obviously anyone who knows music, percussion is typically your backbone. And you can get away without it. And I think this album does it in a very subtle way. There are, like you said, you almost forget it's supposed to be there traditionally. And it kind of blows your mind. And there is one song in here that I will be covering that has percussion in it. But now that I think about it, it's few and far between. So.
Yeah.
So what I did want to ask you, since I don't know a lot about the game.
We'll fix that. Don't worry about it. I'll hook you.
No, I do fully intend on playing it. I just got it on Xbox Game Pass, so I'm sure I will be playing. The story itself, because of that darkness we're talking about with Slay the Spire and the general through line of darkness, at least a little bit throughout the album, what is the story? Is there because it almost feels like you are, I mean, at least from the characters I've seen, you look like almost a bad guy just kind of making your way through the Spire, but I don't think you're a bad guy. I'm just guessing.
No story at all.
No story.
There's no dialogue. The only bit of dialogue that you get is there's a couple of little bits of flavor text on certain things if you get certain random events. And then if you actually clear the game and get like the real ending, not like the initial ending, but the real ending, you get just a little tidbit of story. But basically you're a character with some mysterious background and your own motivations that is trying to ascend the Spire and slay it. And we don't know why. Maybe there's some story somewhere on the internet, but I've played through the game several times now, and I haven't seen a lick of it.
I haven't found a sentence.
Not even a sentence.
No, that's interesting. Okay. I like it. I don't know why that's okay with me right now, but I think it is okay to have a completely baseline interpretive adventure. It's just, this doesn't necessarily have to mean anything. So, I can appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the characters, I mean, there's 3 of them, and then there's a 4th that you can unlock by finishing runs with the first 3. And I mean, the first character that most people play is the Ironclad, and from what I can tell, he's basically a demon. So who knows what his motivations are? And then there's like a plague monk looking rogue that, does roguey stuff and poisons people and whatnot. Definitely doesn't look like a good guy character. And then you've got the Defect, who is a lovable, defective robot. And yeah, that's it. Another character that we won't get into right now because spoilers.
Spoilers? Yeah, I don't want any spoilers. So even though
there's no story to spoil.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's all right. Now, do the characters each have their own abilities?
Oh yes. Yeah, they all have unique decks.
Okay.
And then there's colorless cards that you can get that are common to all of the decks as you ascend the Spire. But there's very, very, very few and far between opportunities for you to get a card from one of the other characters' decks. There's like 1 or 2, maybe 3 ways in the whole game to get them. And they usually don't really jive with your deck anyway, so there's not much incentive to do that.
Gotcha.
You know how we were talking before about me loving puzzling out stuff in like traditional RPGs?
Oh, yeah.
That I think is why this game is like crack for me, because it's literally puzzling through stuff constantly.
Well, that's the thing about deck building games. You have to figure out what goes with what and what could possibly show up to ruin your life. So that is one of the key components of, say, a game like Magic the Gathering that I used to play. Haven't played that in a very long time, 20 years or so. But that's something you have to consider. This, not only do you have to make a deck that's cohesive, you have to be prepared for something that can show up. So that that is, you could say that about a lot of games, but at the same time, I think card games have a special niche where it's like, you don't have a vast pool of resources to draw from that many ways that can mitigate a threat. So in card games, you have to be a little proactive on what you've got on the defense. So I definitely can understand how this gets your puzzle brain going.
I think that for me, the next one I'm going to go to is going to be some battle music. And it's funny because, like I said, I've been playing with my son quite a bit. And when I was driving him to camp yesterday, I told him we were going to be recording, and I asked him for what some of his favorite songs are. And, one of his favorites is also one of my favorites, and that is the Awakened one.
Oh, perfect.
So we were talking about pacing and things not being too intense. And this song kind of ratchets things up a little bit, especially compared to most of the prior songs in the soundtrack. This is, spoilers, this is one of the boss themes.
No.
And you can kind of tell. Can you tell, Mike, from listening to it? Doesn't sound like boss music, does it?
Takes some thinking, but
Yeah.
No, yeah, this
especially
is very
with a name
boss
like
heavy.
The Awakened one. It's pretty obvious. Yeah, exactly.
This is the dancing mad of this game.
Yeah. So this is the Act 3 boss music.
Okay.
It's big. It's got percussion. It's got brass. It's got, a big kind of pumping tempo. Like, it doesn't really let up. And it doesn't really give you a chance to breathe like some of the other songs on the album. There's a couple of points where the flow kind of slows down just a little bit, but you've only got maybe 10 or 15 seconds of that before it ratchets right back up. And I'll tell you what, the bosses in this game can be pretty challenging, especially if you haven't gotten very lucky, or maybe you have gotten lucky and the cards just fail you in that fight. So sometimes it can be pretty hairy. And I think that this song, more than a lot of the other boss music, it's all great, mind you, but I think this one really drives that point home. Yeah,
this one, you get a real sense of danger in this song. I got flashes of One-Winged Angel. Yeah, from Final Fantasy VII. This is very much a do or die moment, and this song, complete with the low choir in the background, kind of building up that tension, it's just a force to be reckoned with. And it's funny because as the soundtrack moves on, there is a steadiness to it throughout each track. And then slowly, I feel like it builds up the album. And, you go from a song like Battle Trance to this one, the Awakened one. And there is such a difference in tension, in fear. Battle Trance, obviously, I would imagine, is the typical battle theme.
Yeah.
But it does give the album a little bit of change. And then you go from there to a song like this, and that change keeps building, and there's more to worry about. There's more stress and more seriousness. I think this song, the Awakened one, is extremely powerful, and it just trudges along. And those low vocals, I just love it when there's a choir in the background giving you the sense of how grand this thing is. I don't even know how to explain it, but this battle feels very scary, and I love the song. It's just a fun time.
Yeah, it's a really great one, and there's plenty of very tense moments that go along with this song being in the soundtrack or being in the background. It's pretty cool.
And I want to say, we talked about song length. This one's really 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So to fit what Abood fits in there in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Sure, it sounds like a lot of time, but there's a lot of strength that comes through, a lot of character, and it doesn't loop. So it's very much a one and done song. So it's just a very powerful piece. My actual next piece was going to be Mind Bloom.
Oh, that's a
and I think
one.
It's appropriate to mention it now because I'm talking about tension. I'm talking about increasing that tension. And this one is just the pinnacle for me. I fucking love this song.
Oh, it's amazing.
It starts with that marching snare drum and low bellowing synth with deep vocals along with it. I was just talking about the vocals I love. They eventually drop off for a steady staccato violin section as the drums and horns just fill it out with this ominous backbone. Drawn to this song because it feels absolutely menacing. These things are not going right. The situation is 100% dire here. So that ever-present snare drum just keeps things moving along. That march beat, the strings constantly are flitting about and coming in and out of your ears in these anxious displays. It's a short but extremely exciting song to listen to. Again, not knowing much about the game or the gameplay, this is probably top tier boss is my guess. Yeah. You know, you've got your regular bosses and then you've got your generals, the second command bosses. And this feels like the creme de la creme. The danger of the situation is amplified by this song and really illustrates a tense and exciting situation.
This one's really cool because this is not a song that you come across every single time you play through the game. Like, you might... Okay. You would think that it's tied to like an end boss or something like that, and it's actually just to a unique event that you might see in 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 4 runs. And for a song that doesn't play as part of kind of the standard journey through the game, man, it hits real hard. It's so cool. It was definitely on my list for sure.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear it because as soon as I heard this song, I'm like, all right, here we fucking go. This is a wonderful track. And it's not terribly long, 2 minutes. Yeah, it just has such strength behind it. Something that gets you going. And now from what you tell me, it's an extremely rare piece.
Yeah.
Which gives it, even in a weird way, more power. Because it's like, once you hear it, you're like, okay. So now I'm in a really unique situation. I love it.
Yep. Good stuff. And, you know, I'm gonna kind of break my own little rule that I just enforce upon myself for no reason, and I'm gonna go with another battle theme because we love battle themes on this show. But I could probably just talk about battle themes in just about every episode we do, and I have to restrain myself. But this time, nope, I can't. And my pick is gonna have to be The Heart, which is boy oh boy.
Now, is this a final boss?
Spoilers. Yeah, it is.
Uh-oh.
It is.
Okay, I figured. But
this is far and away the hardest encounter in the entire game, and it is such a step above anything else that you do up to that point that the kind of desperation that this song drives home is very, very real, especially the first time that you come up against it and you have no idea what to expect. It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, those intro stings with the strings and the horns, very powerful.
Yeah.
Perfect way to get you immediately hairs standing on end. What am I about to face?
Yep. I remember the first time that I listened to this song while I was playing the game, and I was immediately taken aback by how good the music was. And then I started like looking at the special abilities of the thing I was fighting and kind of getting a more full grasp of exactly what I was in for. And I think that I just uttered an audible holy shit. And yeah, excuse me, still kind of the feeling that I get anytime that I get to this particular point in the game. It's very cool.
And that's a very polarizing feeling, I think. I think there are people who would enter a combat situation like a last boss, a final boss, and see or feel something that they weren't expecting and be completely turned off by the difficulty or the challenge. And there are those that would kind of rise to the occasion. And I think this song, it gives you a little bit more confidence as you're listening to it. It's not super loud. It's not super in your face, but I think there's a nice melody in there that feels like it's singing the song of your character, kind of rising to the occasion. And the last time, to comment on what you were just talking about, the last time I felt like that, like the holy shit, what have I gotten myself into, is I remember feeling that when I got to the final boss in Octopath Traveler. I don't know if you've ever played that.
I've never played it. I've heard it has a great soundtrack, though.
It's fantastic. And we can cover that another day, maybe. But the final boss, man, you need to be ready for what you're about to face. It is unbelievable. And the whole time I was staring at the screen with disbelief as to what was going on.
Yeah.
So if you like puzzles, Jesse, that's a battle for you.
Duly noted. And, I think that a game like Slay the Spire or a bunch of other turn-based games, I've never played Octopath Traveler, but from what I understand, it's kind of a traditional, side view 90s style RPG, just ratcheted up to 11 across the board. And it's games like that and games like this and games like the XCOM series, which I am a huge fan of, that the music I feel like gets a chance to breathe a lot more than some other more action oriented games where, if you're playing through something like a, Final Fantasy VII remake and you're fighting the final boss or really any boss, the action's kind of nonstop. So like you hear the music and it has an impact on you, but you don't really get that time to just pause, breathe a little bit, try and assess your situation and really take in what the music is dishing out like you do in a game like this, And I feel like this particular song, especially taken in context of the encounter that you're in when you first hear it, it gives you the chance to breathe, but it also implies that like this is a serious threat and you might not be able to figure your way through this. Like you just might not be able to. Just like any other roguelike. I mean, you play Hades and it doesn't matter how good you are at beating all the bosses that lead up to fighting Hades at the end. If you haven't built out your character the right way, you're going to have a hell of a time beating him. And that's very much like what you see in this and a lot of other roguelikes too. So knowing that you're going into that last fight with literally almost 0% chance success in front of you and still being able to enjoy it for what it is, I think has a lot to do with the music and just the feeling that the game builds as you ascend the spire.
Yeah. And that's so true. I think the music has such an important role to play, especially in games like this, where you're going to be spending time with it, especially because you're going to be playing it over and over. It's not an 80-hour game like a traditional RPG necessarily, but you're going to be spending time with this soundtrack, and it's an hour long. It's actually under an hour. That's actually one of the things that maybe I kind of dinged it for, is just because I wanted a little bit more. But that's personal preference. I do understand that it's a shorter game, and I can appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, with this type of game, you need to be moved along almost as much by the music as you are by your gameplay choices and actions. it's a unique experience when you're playing a roguelike and you're going to die, and you're going to die a lot, and you're going to replay the same levels. You're going to replay different levels, tweaks here and there. You're going to encounter a new challenge almost every time. And it's the music that's going to accompany you along the way. And it has to fill the role of being engaging to keep you there. You know, we talked last time about Clash at Demon Head. I got it right.
Hey, not Demon Hand. Good job.
Not Demon Hand. So we talked last week, and obviously it is a gulf of a difference between that game and this game. But part of what my issue was for games of the time is just, you know, space, and the music that was produced didn't want you to keep playing. It didn't force you to keep playing. It forced you to turn the volume down. And, you know, we joked about it and whatever, but, you know, through limitations, you can do great things. And I've seen the NES do great things. We've all seen that and heard that. In a game like this, where you're going to replay it over and over, you want it to be engaging. You want it to be fun and exciting to listen to. And these songs, I feel, are versatile to a lot of situations, yet they are not plentiful. What I mean by that is the track listing is 25 tracks.
Right.
Some of the songs are very short, but none of them breach 4 minutes, I don't think.
No.
And I feel like they can be utilized in different situations. And you know what? You're going to have a nice warm blanket of music for your entire trip through the Spire.
Yeah, it's funny. For a long time, when roguelikes first kind of came on the scene and started becoming, you know, more popular, when I first heard the concept of them, it just didn't click with me, because I'm very much like a story-driven player. You know, Me too. I heard about games of this, you know, in this genre, and I was like, that doesn't really sound like something I'd be that interested in. And then
I agree.
On a whim, I picked up FTL, Faster Than Light. That was the very first roguelike that I've ever played. And all of a sudden I realized that I was like, oh no, this is almost like a choose your own adventure book, like back from when I was a little kid. And when I kind of reframed the game a little bit, I was like, okay, I can give this a try. And I started digging into FTL. And I mean, talk about a game with an absolutely perfect soundtrack for the style of the game and the roguelike style in general. And I found that I wasn't getting as frustrated as I thought I would be by having to just replay the same thing all over again. And, you know, a couple of years later, I'm talking about games like Slay the Spire on a podcast with a buddy. And, you know, I've tried a bunch of roguelikes. They aren't all for me. There are definitely some that stand out head and shoulders above the rest. You know, FTL, Hades, now Slay the Spire, Crying Suns, and a few others. Next on the list that I'm probably going to try out, because a friend of mine gifted it to me, was Risk of Rain 2. I've heard it's fantastic and also brutally difficult, that'll be fun. Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of coming to the realization that the predispositions I had about the style of the game were not only not fully baked, but also misplaced. And giving them a shot actually really opened my eyes to a whole new genre of games that I like being able to just pick up and play for 20 or 30 minutes while I'm waiting for something to, you know, happen around the house.
Absolutely.
Or waiting to leave to go meet some friends, and not feeling like I have to sit down and play for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours until I keep just telling myself, I'll just do one more floor. Just one more floor. It'll be fine.
Right. Just one more.
And then it's 1:30 in the morning. And I time traveled, which is something this game has done to me twice now. Yeah. And
I think I went through a similar trajectory as you to that, where the idea of roguelikes was just, I like the idea of feeling like I'm making progress. And the idea of roguelikes just didn't have that for me, at least, again, what I thought they were. But I did pick up Hades, and I kind of fell in love with it. I'm like, okay, there is just enough progress that gets saved to where I'm like, okay, so I feel like I'm chipping away at the stone of this game, and pretty soon it's going to be something that I can conquer. And I found myself coming back to it frequently when that game came back, and it was or came out, and it was a great time. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would, and it did open my eyes as to the appeal of these games.
Mm-hmm.
Good time. So
good time.
Give me some final thoughts on Slay the Spire.
Yeah. My final thoughts would be summed up without just repeating everything that I just said about how much fun this game was. Honestly, the thing that I am enjoying the most about this game is not anything specific to this game, but it's the fact that I'm now able to share it with my wife and my son. Mm-hmm. And we all can talk about it, and we can talk about all these cool cards that we got and this cool combo that we figured out. And just kind of, almost having like a community surrounding this game in my own house. And I'm sure if I talk to any friends that have maybe played casually or don't really know what I'm talking about, that I would seem like an old dude talking about his collection of model trains. Like, it would be a lot to take in. But boy, I sure could. I've never recorded anything on my PS5. Like, no gameplay. The only screenshots I've taken are ones that I accidentally hit the screenshot button with, by accident. Accidentally by accident, yeah.
Accidentally.
But the last time that I played a run with the Ironclad and I got up to the last boss, and I had, through a combination of some deck building skill and insane luck, come up with a deck that was the most absurd thing that I have ever seen in this game to date, that I took a recording of it so that I could try and figure out how to flip to upload it to YouTube from my PlayStation and share it with some friends. So
that's awesome.
That says something, because I am not the type of person to stream video games. I'm not interested in it. I don't watch people stream video games. I find it very boring. But this was so cool that I had to figure out how to do it. And Absolutely. That's my Slay the Spire experience in a nutshell.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear it. It sounds like it has brought your family closer together. That's awesome. I think that's something truly unique when you can have a game just kind of infect the entire house.
Yeah. This is the second game that I've done that with, that's quite an accomplishment. It's this and the digital version of Wingspan, which is also amazing. That one hooked my nice. Wife and son as well. Good stuff.
Awesome. The only time I've heard of that in recent memory is Animal Crossing during COVID.
Yeah.
Everyone was buying that game. I didn't buy it.
Yeah, it's funny because that one hooked my wife and my son and my daughter, and then I just didn't get into it, so I wasn't part of that little clique.
But it's cool that this kind of turned into that little community game for you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
So just to kind of wrap this up, I think that this album for me is a bit of a throwback, whether it was intentional or not. Abood really utilizes a keyboard to great effect here, and the instruments here are generated from a keyboard. They still sound amazing and fun, and the flow of each track is really what reminds me of late 90s, early 2000s RPG and strategy game scores. I keep mentioning Heroes of Might and Magic, but there is a lot in this soundtrack that gives me that feeling. Like, Heroes of Might and Magic was an incredible game for the time, and such a fun game that you would spend hours on, you and your friends, switching seats and playing hot seat games and building up your castles and fighting each other and exploring the map. That was huge. But you had these battles that just kind of were enveloped by this music that was playing, and I feel a lot of that in this soundtrack. So it really brought back those nostalgic thoughts and feelings. And that's not to say I'm looking at this with rose-colored glasses. I think Abood did a great job at making this his own, and it's a fun soundtrack to listen to. And like I mentioned briefly before, I think I just wanted a little bit more, not a lot. It is a short game, but we do fall short of an hour here. So I think I dinged it just a little bit because I was bitter. I was bitter that there wasn't more to listen to, but it's not against him. It is a great soundtrack. So I highly recommend everyone go out, listen to it. You've all got Spotify or Apple Music. Don't fucking lie to yourselves. Just listen to it. It's worth 53 minutes out of your day. So
great driving music, great studying music, great working music. It's just the right amount. so that it's not going to distract you from whatever it is you're doing. So, what's your ranking? What'd you give it?
I gave it a 9 out of 10 Spires.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It is. I was actually waffling between an 8 or a 9 out of 10. What do you call it? Oh, I forgot the card I was going to use for the ranking. I remember now. I was going to give it between like an 8 or a 9 out of 10 catalysts.
Okay.
I'm going to go with a 9. The only reason I was considering an 8 was actually very similar to your own reasoning, is that a little bit more variety would have been cool. But I also know that like if he were to inject too many more tracks, I think it would kind of muddy the feeling that they were going for with, the roguelike element. So I think overall I'm going to end up going with a 9. And I got to say, it was a real pleasant surprise, especially after a couple of weeks ago, me saying it wasn't even worth covering. Sorry, I was wrong.
For those of you who can't see, Clark Abood is at Jesse's house with a knife to his throat.
Yeah.
So that is what is influencing this show today.
Mm-hmm.
So again, the vinyl is sold out, but keep your eyes and ears out. I'm sure there's going to be a repressing, especially for a popular vinyl, a popular game that not only is the board game coming out, it's getting a sequel. It was just announced not too long ago.
Yeah,
so
just in April,
I can almost guarantee
next year,
if they don't release it by itself on vinyl again, they're going to do a collection. You heard it here first. Keep watching those record stores, and do yourselves a favor. Visit Clark Abood, ABOUD.com. That's his website. You can find out all his projects and even grab a couple vinyls for different games there. So check him out. And Jesse, if you would like to say goodbye, please do so.
Yeah, thanks everybody for listening. Definitely give the game a try, and I am really looking forward to the time in a week or two when Mike messages me and says, "What the fuck did you do to me? I can't stop playing this stupid game." It's going to be great. I'm going to love it.
Oh, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, well, it'll happen. You'll curse my name.
As I'm sitting there at 3 a.m. when I got to work.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you can get it on iOS too, so you can actually play it at work if you have an iPhone, or I think it's on Android as well.
Can you? I gotta check that now.
Yep, pretty sure it is. Pretty sure
All
it is.
All right, you have a great night, day, morning, whenever you're listening to us, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk to you next time.
See you, everybody.
Son of a bitch. It is on iPhone. Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, please rate and subscribe. We very much appreciate it. Also visit our brand new website, magusmediaproductions.net, to get all information on every show. See you next time.
Well, hello there, Internet people. My name is Josh, and I am one of the hosts of the Nastagram RPG podcast. We're an actual play podcast, and we're good. And why are we good? Well, let's let the other host tell you. Dan.
Hey, everyone. If you like authentic, real-world sound effects, our lasers go pew-pew.
I love it. Matt.
Skip me. Coming back to Matt.
Ryan.
Okay, so after 2 decades of trying, we finally mastered the 3.5 grapple. We didn't.
Try again.
Scratch that.
Look it up.
John?
If you're looking for a RPG podcast that plays a whole hell of a lot of games, you like to spice the life.
Spice it up.
Spice it up.
Matt, you ready?
Yeah, I think I'm ready. If you enjoy bad accents and overacting, you'll enjoy our podcast.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
And Jake, bring us home.
I like to just say, we didn't just throw a phone on the table and hit record. Like, Josh does a damn good job with the editing. And
Facts.
if you care about that, you will not be disappointed.
That's right. We spent a bunch of money that we don't make on the podcast.
100%.
So check us out, Nastagram RPG Podcast. You can find us on all the goddamn podcast apps, and we'll see you there.
That's nasty.